All right, guys, so listen, a few minutes ago, I posted on Facebook a live video, and man, Facebook has made some changes in recent months. You know, there was a time where you can use a Facebook Live and actually bring somebody in and do an interview, and it was so cool. And then they took away that feature. Somehow last week, they actually brought it back, not announcing it, of course, and then they took it away again. And I understand because sometimes via Facebook Live, things can happen. A lot of tragedies have happened, especially during these times that people have been recording these things. So I get it. However, what I want to do is make sure that I share some information with people and ask questions. If people ask me questions, I want to answer those questions. And sometimes I don't get a chance to do it because just like everybody else, I'm kind of busy. However, we have, and again, no apology, no bad intentions intended. When I say sensei guide, I only use what would be a teacher. Of course, I have, according to different styles that have different meanings to it. You know, so but sensei means instructor, and I like to use that one because this makes it easier. But Sensei Michael Miller is kind of interesting because this gentleman, from what I know, you know, we're like a martial arts a family, in the way we put it, but in the sake of his instructor, I believe, Professor Ernest Hyman, I believe was junior, or maybe the second. I'm not exactly sure. You might know that.
No, it was Grandmaster, the late Grandmaster.
But well, it was interesting. The last time him and I had a conversation, we were being interviewed by this guy named DJ Playboy, and at the time he was using the title of professor because he said that it was a science behind it. He was breaking down all this. Yeah. So he's talking about martial science. And again, listen, I don't, whatever anyone wants to be addressed as, I'm down with that. I don't have a problem with it. To me, it's all based out of love. But when I come from a perspective of sharing information, I gotta do it keeping it real. But I still, you know, keeping it real meaning what I believe is being the truth. And if I investigate and I find out otherwise, then I absolutely do that too. So for whatever it's worth, this is kind of interesting. I have two different perspectives here. I have someone who's a martial artist and someone who's part of hip hop culture with my man Harry Black there. And that's what I'm all about, hip hop and martial arts, right? So this is an open forum right now. So just to get the ball rolling, if you don't mind, if you have any questions for me, or one question or two questions or more, I don't care. Mr. Miller, if you don't mind, talk to me, brother.
Well, first of all, I'm from the South Bronx, baby. Born in South Bronx, baby. BX. That's right. All my schooling, Bronx, baby. Both master's degrees, all Bronx schools, Fordham U, College of Mount, everything Bronx. I'm just Bronx. Okay. You know.
Well, listen, I hope you won't hold it against me because I've only been in the Bronx since 1971. I was born in Manhattan, raised in the Boogie Down Bronx. I still rep the Bronx because that's where I spend most of my time. But I'm from 119 between 2nd and 3rd. My cousin was a renegade of Harlem, and I was born in Mount Sinai Hospital. So, but I always repped the Boogie Down because that's where, as an adult and a teenager, I was able to make a name for myself.
All right. Well, I was born in, I'm in my 60s right now, but I was born at the old Lincoln Hospital.
Whoa.
No longer there. The old
Lincoln Hospital that the young lords took over because they were not taking care of people properly. Now, Felipe Luciano happens to be my boy, so I know.
All right. That's right. I grew up on Kelly Street, went to John Dwyer 133, where all the gangs were, over there on Stebbins Avenue, 163rd.
What were you saying? I mean, so let's give some shout outs to some of these gangs. For whatever it's worth, we moved in 1971, and the ones that were in my immediate area, I was on 164th and Sheridan. And guys, just so you know, we were one block away from the Grand Concourse. During that time, it was predominantly Jews that were living there, Italian and Irish. So when we were brought into what would be that area, it was because Jews in the Grand Concourse, which is a big thing. We lived in a building called Roxy's Mansion. But the gangs that we saw there, even though they had the savage version of it, it was the young skulls and the young skulls, savage nomads,
right,
were the main two there, even though those were the tingling nomads on the other side. And at some point, years after, the Black Spades came about. But in the area,
Ghetto Brothers.
Yeah, well, the Ghetto, it's interesting because the Ghetto Brothers also, I remember in 170th and Webster Avenue, there's a whole bunch of them that were there also. Even though going down that hill on 163rd, where they had on the right-hand side, the Ghetto Brothers had the headquarters, right? Anyway, let me shut up, man. You told me because you was there.
That's right. Knew all those cats, man. You know, hey, Black Spades, the Savage Skulls, Savage Nomads, Ghetto Brothers, Roman Kings, Seven Immortals, all these cats, man. You know, I grew up a little boy, you know, and we had to survive, man. We had to learn. We had to learn how to fight. And I started learning my martial arts when I was around 13. My first film I saw was Five Fingers of Death.
I saw that in the Lord's Paradise, and we were still living in Manhattan. So we had to go all the way close to Fordham on the Grand Concourse to see Lo Lee.
Uh-huh.
The Iron
Well, we went
Fist.
to the Star and to the Loey Spoon there. That was on Southern Boulevard. We went there. We saw those movies over there and some other ones. But we had, you know, we learned it the hard way, brother. You know, we had to fight, you know, the gangs. We got robbed, you know, sometimes you get jumped. You have to know how to fight. And I started taking martial arts when I was a young boy, and I had this bully at 133. Man, he was, you know, he was always messing with me. So when I left the school, he came out there to try to punk me, and he was fighting. He getting me a little bit. He was getting in. He's getting his in. Everybody was watching. Everybody was watching. He was getting his in. I got mine a little bit. He get it. And so then he tried to hit me up. I said, let me try this maneuver that I learned. And why I let him think that he had all the power over me, and he was strong, and he was bigger than me. So I let him overpower me, back me up to the car, and at the last second, I swung him around. I used his momentum and his power against him. That's Wing Chun. And I started,
Aikido on Aiki's methods. Hit him with the car.
Yeah, bro. And I busted him up, man. He was bleeding. Everybody, the gang members was pulling me off. That's enough. That's enough. Man, I had to prove myself. And it was about survival back then, bro.
It was interesting because your reputation preceded you. And if you was chumped, forget about it. I remember being conditioned, don't you be a punk, a chump, because no one wanted to have to worry about going somewhere and worrying about your back and somebody else's back. And they had to be able to handle themselves too. Otherwise, you wasn't going to hang out with your cousin.
Yeah. Well, I had rolled by myself. You know, I had no friends around me right outside the school where I was, you know, was getting mine in and he was getting his in. He was getting some in. And I was just by myself. He had all his friends, all the gang. Everybody said, yeah, get him, get him, get him.
Do you remember what gang he was from?
Huh?
Do you remember what gang he was from?
Nah.
Sometimes gangs could have been just 5 or 10 people. They have to be an official gang that was wearing colors. It could have been just what we consider a crew or clique or posse, cousins and friends from the same block sometimes. But then they had the official gangs. You had to watch it with those freaking people. Because if you walk by the neighborhood with the wrong colors, oh
yeah. Or the wrong patch. You had a wrong jacket on. We had those Lee jackets. Those Lee jackets. And bro, there were some places you could not wear that openly because you get rained on.
So it's very interesting because we were able to be, I'm only 54, but again, I have a pretty good memory. And of course, I saw the transition where those colors actually became illegal. And if a cop saw you, you was in trouble. So in the transition from that, regardless, there was still parties, right? So everybody used to go to their social clubs, right? Or I should say, their clubhouses, and there was music going on there. So people were dancing what would have been rock dancing or the predecessor to what would be hip hop years after, but even what was disco, but you was just doing like some funk dancing that you might have seen in, you know, Soul Train. And that's the preset of what ended up becoming hip hop music. So, or just say hip hop as a culture. So the Ghetto Brothers, as an example, that's Karate. Going back to his name, man, it's not Karate Pete. Even though there was multiple Karate Petes, Karate Pete Williams was the one that was teaching Black Spades how to do martial arts. But Karate Charlie was the guy over at the Ghetto Brothers who also did martial arts. So martial arts and hip hop intertwined with the culture of the ghettos of New York, because even the young lords was doing nunchucks and all types of stuff too. Do you reference that to being a fact?
Yes, but also not just hip hop, but soul music, because guess who was training me in Shotokan? Black Panthers was training me. We was People's School of Self-Defense. We had the People's School of Self-Defense. We were learning Shotokan. My first teacher was Sensei Atim and Sensei Harry. And those brothers, those cats was great, man. So we had a dojo on the corner of my block. And
what street was that again? 163rd and what?
Well, that's where I went to school over there, 163rd Street. But I grew up on Kelly Street, which along with the Intervale Avenue. That's where I grew up.
South Bronx. South Bronx.
Right there. That's right. Four Corners, you know, all those places. So we was learning Shotokan, and then we remember these cats from our block. They came in our dojo trying to, hold us down, thinking that, oh man, y'all whack, y'all can't do nothing. We're gonna beat your asses and all that stuff. And so our teacher, our sons, just say, you know what, y'all gotta handle your business. They came in there, like you see in those karate movies, jokers coming in the dojos doing
dojo knocking. They used to call that dojo knocking.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Man, we were busting them up. Now, my cousin, he was one of them bullies that came in there with him, and he was getting his in. But we were busting them all up until one of them ran up the street.
Wait. So what are you saying? Hold on. So you're in the dojo, and you guys have to show and prove, and you're saying one of the so-called nemesis or the other crew or the gang that came in was one of your own cousins?
One of them was my cousins, but he wasn't trying to beat on me, because he's my cousin. But it was, all these other friends, they came in there busting in there trying to, work us over. And we had to stand. Our teacher said, no, he locked the door. He said, no one is leaving. You better handle your business. And we had to, we were scared, but we handled them. Dude ran out that door. He opened up that door. Dude ran up the street. But my cousin stayed in there, and he still was getting his in, but we was getting ours in on too until it was just enough. And this dude.
What do you think? What do you think was the motivation to that? Because let's keep it real. A lot of times things like that happen just because people were bored. They wanted something to do, so they might as well test somebody.
Well, the motivation was we didn't want to make our dojo look bad, our teachers look bad, and we didn't want to get our behinds kicked where these dudes was gonna go around telling everybody, yeah, man, around the block, yo, them jokers are they little girls and little pussies.
Okay, so you know what? So you answered the question there. So the question was, what was their motivation and what was your motivation to protect it? So like in the Kung Fu movie, you have to protect your school. You got to make sure that, so we were corrupt. But at the same time, these people were just trying to get props that they chumped you because, and then maybe at that point they get a little more, because think about it. Karate guys, even though most of them that were in gangs at some point tried karate and quit, they figured, let me jump for better. Instead of doing the one-on-one, it would take a lot of heart and skill set to do that. So they'd rather dump somebody way back when if they didn't have the skills. That's the way I looked at it. If they ain't gangs, they can't fight. So that's why they need help. So we can do the one-on-one, which is the most respectful thing. But at the same time, people try to make fun of us because we did karate. That used to happen to me, like, oh, karate fever boy. Like, what do you need to kick me punching?
Yeah. Yeah,
but they were the chumps. They were the real chumps to me.
Yeah, well, after we kicked their behinds, after we kicked their behinds, they kind of look back because their motivation was to go in there to make us look bad and bully us around and show that our dojo was a nothing, that they street guys, they can do all of this. Our motivation was, one, we wanted to defend ourselves, two, prove that we wasn't any punks, three, that our dojo can hold it down, that we can work with our techniques, and we didn't want that embarrassment, because if we didn't get our behinds kicked, it'll look bad for everybody in there. And then our teachers would have just lit us up. So we was motivated for
Hold it now. Even though I heard that loud and clear, I want you guys to hear that again. In my home, it was the same thing. You better win that fight, I'm gonna whip your ass.
There you
go. That was the same thing in the dojo.
There you go. Yeah.
That's love, right, baby. But the way it goes, you did not want to be the instructor saying, hey, that's my student, the one over there crying and running away and got beat up. No, it was all really based on what you would consider holding your own, holding your ground, being respected, based on your skills and not being a punk, not being tough. Now, for what it was,
with it outside in the streets, that we was nothing. So it was a combination. Our teacher whipping our behinds, and then have to deal with them punks bragging on us, bragging and talking about how they whipped out behind. We didn't want to face that, and then everybody would be coming here challenging us.
Well, okay, maybe I'm wrong, but that can also mean that it would have been pretty difficult to get a girlfriend, because if you was the punk that got beat up.
Well, that's true. That's partly true too. I didn't have that problem at that time.
No, but that's the whole thing. So now imagine taking that same mentality to karate tournaments. That's the way I did it. I saw gangs. I went to these tournaments, and I was an independent because I originally come from Kung Fu and then also Motor Kwan Tang Soo Do, which was Tiger Kim's at Fordham Road, April 19, 1976. But when I went to tournaments in the PAL in Webster Avenue, that was no Taekwondo tournament. That was some ghetto. And I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. So I gravitated towards that because it reminded me of what I was used to. Because in Taekwondo, we were so respectful. We wore the white uniforms, and I wanted to make sure that I learned this stuff, because, going back home, think about it, Fordham Road to 164 in Sheridan was worlds apart. Taking that one bus or the two bus as a 10-year-old kid alone, the neighborhoods that I had to pass and then get back home alone. So you had to have a lot of heart in order to do that. Or even going from what would be the Bronx to Spanish Harlem or even Harlem, they knew you wasn't from there, so you had to make sure you was cool. Kept it moving.
Yeah.
Watch your back.
But let me tell you something. Now, one thing is just really, there's several things that's really, really disturbing me and that's troubling me, I would say more so. And one thing that's really, really concerns me is that we're losing a lot of legitimate masters going on. We're losing. And
You see what's above me, what it says, the health, right? You hear me preaching all the time, health is wealth, man, because I don't care who you are, the best defense you can ever have is a strong immune system. It breaks my heart. 5 of my friends, as you might have heard, died in 1 week. And I felt so helpless and so, my heart came out because, man, let me tell you something. I literally was in bed for 2 days. I could not get up, get my head up. On the 3rd day, I did get my head up because my mother said, "You okay?" And I didn't want her to think I was sick, And then for 10 days, I did a lot of the so-called paying homage to people who passed away. And I said, you know what? Forget this talk about only people who passed. We love them, we miss them. But let me talk about people who are alive right now and hope to keep them alive. And I started sharing information that to me was important because they were influences to me, And a lot of people appreciate it. Someday, I don't care. I did it because it's the right thing to do. I give props and credit where it's due. However, I'm not one to give it where it's not due. There's so many people that just lie or have a selective memory and like, nah, man, that didn't happen as far as I know. I got guys that, I don't get it, how people, I shouldn't say that, I do get it. People like to embellish some truths. The truth is that all martial artists have the potential to be better, and that's what martial arts is all based on. Personal growth. If you can lead by example and help other people do the same thing, oh my God, what an incredible feeling that is to help people spread love. I can't sing, but you know what I'm saying.
Hey, yeah, take 6.
Exactly. Love is what you need. So again, on a side note, some of the best singers of all time, guys, as you know, and that was a gospel album that went mainstream and killed it with some real lyrics going back to the soul days. It's interesting. You reference the dancing or the music and soul food, which is it's true. It was soul music, I should say. Others might have called it rock. Rock really comes from soul music too. I mean, they changed it to funk, but it really comes from the same thing, speaking from the heart. Some people even reference it to a modern version of blues, speaking from the heart. Again, gospel, speaking from the heart. Being as honest as possible, coming from whatever reason it is, but speaking from the heart. So many people don't speak from the heart, they speak from the knot. The knot, as I call it. The speed knot they must have got in their head because they're saying some stuff that just doesn't make any damn sense. They ain't knuckleheads. But I might be the knucklehead myself at times, only because, hey, Somebody got to do it. What the heck?
Yeah.
One thing that's important to me is honesty. And I honestly believe that we're living in the middle of some crazy times, but really opportune times for those leaders to step up. So I'm trying to help leaders step up more by educating them with nutrition, of course, also with inspiration. These guys I looked up to, and it wasn't because they're taller than me. I think they really motivated me. So I want to make sure that they know that there were influences in a positive way in my personal life. And I know that I'm blessed, and all of us who are alive, we are blessed. We're walking, we're talking, the eyes of being, we can see right now, we can hear right now, and I don't take that for granted. I count my blessings before I open my eyes, because for some reason I could wake up now with my eyes closed and I say, Lord, if you give me another day, I promise I'll help as many people as possible. And that might sound a little soft to people from back in the days, but there's nothing more hardcore to me and powerful than LOVE. Love, baby.
Right. LOVEU. That's it.
There you go. Yeah. Man, so
absolutely.
I'm sure you got a few questions because.
But yeah, but my concern was, yeah, people like, we lost people like Gerald Dawson, go a while back, man. That was a terrible loss. His son is carrying it on. We lost Earl Woodbury, Rico Guy, Papa San, some others. It's like, who is, and then you got these guys who are chasing ranks. And, when the rest of these, sages go, from here, from New York, when they go, who's going to be the one that's going to step up and, hold it down and be credible enough to give legitimate ranks? Because you got people giving illegitimate ranks out there. And
that's what I mean about people with selective memory. In all actuality, we know there's only two belts. There's white and there's black. Everywhere in between is a matter of your skill set. and then in terms of black, see, I personally never really cared about that, but I understand how people do. And the reason I never cared about that was because my mother kept me very grounded. And what she said was more important than having respect. The values. If you're a liar and your reputation is of a liar, that means by definition, you're hurting the reputation of the family because the kid's a liar. Similar to when if you guys would have got beat up in the dojo. What the heck you doing? You're hurting our reputations and you guys are attached to us. So a lot of people are homeless in the sense that they're never even trained with those people. And they just start dropping names just for the sake of it. People even do that with me. I mean, I don't claim anything. I mean, I have heard a lot of people say to me how other people are paying a lot of stuff. And I'm like, I would have to go to the records to find out that we were students, because at one time I had 1,000 students with 6 schools. And there wasn't anything to brag about. I saw millions of people in New York. So to have 1,000 students out of millions, that was kind of whack to me. And I wanted to have more students because to me, martial arts saved my life. Why did it save my life? On the weekends, instead of me being in the block, getting in trouble, or sticking somebody up, early 80s, my boys were the bank robbers of the Boogie Down Bronx. Not bragging, just the truth. But since I was at karate tournaments in other states, kept me away from trouble, man. A lot of people didn't get that luxury. I couldn't afford it, but I couldn't afford not to go either. It really saved my life. I used to read Karate Illustrated, so I was a kid in the fantasy world. They used to call us dreamers. Like I wanted to be Puerto Rican Bruce Lee, because I thought Bruce Lee was Puerto Rican, since he had that cha-cha, you know what I'm saying? But again, as an example, where rest in peace to Bruce Lee, who passed away today,
Yeah, the 20th.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. And I remember when that happened, it was impactful, right, man? It was crazy. I looked at the Daily News, and there was a photo of him that I had never saw before, where his hands had like tape, and his face was like on an angle. I couldn't believe that he died, and this is just before we actually saw Enter the Dragon. So what kind of influence did Bruce Lee have in your life to the point where back in 1973 you actually cried?
Oh yeah, I got interested in the nunchuckles, even made my own nunchuckles, man. I start,
Wait a second. Did you steal
history of it.
broomstick from the super? Because these have a
Yeah, that was one way. We take the end of that stick, we, saw it off, take the end of it, and then take the other part, and you put the chain, and you nail it in. And we took the bar, and we cut it, and then we made it even. Then we took the nail, we plowed the nail in it, and we put a little chain in it, and we hooked it up in there and baked it in.
Now, where did you get the chain? Because we used to get chains sometimes from the abandoned building on the windows, but it wasn't that fluid, but we still used to use that. And when you used to swing that, it used to hit you back so hard, you had the black and blues and knots in your head. Yeah. We wanted to be like Bruce Lee or the Hong Kong Cat. The Hong Kong Cat. A lot of people don't realize there was a movie called The Hong Kong Cat where this guy was doing nunchucks even before Bruce Lee did it, what we knew as the Chinese Connection, even though we found out years after it was called the Fist of Fury. But
I still have mine. I'm going to go under my bed and take a look at it. I still have it. Hold on.
And guys, just so you know, that's why we say that we're family, because this is something that happens worldwide. People worldwide literally are still wanting to be Bruce Lee or Shaolin Monk or Ninja or even Shogun Assassin. When we seen that guy, the Lone Wolf, oh my God. So, and we are all children just trying to be good kids to make our parents happy. There you go.
I found it.
I
found it.
What? Oh, hey, wait a minute, man. Somebody got upset because that was probably holding one of those lamps. That's the chain for the lamps. Where you got that chain from?
Man, I don't even remember. I was young. Got my own. That's it.
Man, guys, let me tell you right there, that's a relic, but worldwide, people did the same exact thing. Martial arts literally is the world's largest family. Not relatives, but family. Now you notice the way his posture changed. Wow. When we heard how about the first time we seen this? How cool is that, man?
Oh man, Chinese Connection. Chinese Connection. Seeing that, I said, oh man, I gotta get one. And then Enter the Dragon, when he started using it at the end, when he was in that fighting scene, I said, oh. So I said, yo, I had two of them. I don't know what happened to the other one. And I had a little rubber, string on it. It was very flexible, it was smaller. I said, nah, man. And I was doing it real good. I was real good at it.
Hey guys, understand that used to be the choice of weapon or the equalizer when you went to other neighborhoods. True or false?
Yep, or a chain. This or a heavy chain. This, definitely.
Oh, you have people, believe it or not, my grandmother, and I'm not, it's the truth. Her choice of weapon was twofold. Now, Puerto Ricans, they got knives. That's the 007 was good with her.
Switchblades.
But she had the 007, which was a switchblade, but she also had the ice pick that was rough because you get stitches in and out and gives them gangrene. My grandmother, she taught me how to stab and go upward so you don't catch the belt when you go downward. You go stab with the blade up and across. How crazy is that? We learned that watching Harikari, right? My grandmother used to take me to all the movies when the Apollo Theater was showing the Kung Fu movies too.
Right.
Early 70s.
Yeah.
I see you. So what year do you estimate those childhood toy? What year do you think you put that together?
Oh man, it was, I don't know. I think it was 73. I put this thing together, between 73 and 74, but I'm leaning between those years, 73, 74.
And I know when it was. It was right after you saw Chinese Connection. So you're right. 1973 was it, man, because everybody started doing that. Even though, like I said, there was a movie called The Hong Kong Cat that the guy Corrado was using nunchucks, but it wasn't as popular as Bruce Lee's movie because we saw Five Fingers of Death, most people, and then the second movie they saw was considered was Fist of Fury, and then when we seen Chinese Connection, it was over. But the Fist of
It was
Fury,
over. It was over.
it wasn't the same thing. Fist of Fury had more of the fantasy thing and the dogs being thrown. But he even made potato chips cool. When I thought he was eating potatoes. When he jumped over the fence and eating potato chips and Fist of Fury, that was like the coolest thing ever. But
Right.
what I tell everybody is once I saw Chinese Connection, aka we knew the year after was the Fist of Fury, but towards his Chinese Connection, and that man went insane, and you see his eyes. Why you kill my teacher? Why? Oh my God!
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
Then when he got kicked in the back and he whips out those things.
Oh yeah. That's it. And there we go.
1973, childhood relic. I guess that's going to be, God forbid, it's going to be part of your will, and your son will probably have it.
He definitely have it. I might just give it to him now. I mean, I have him on video on one of my pages of him doing Dune Tuckles, using both of them. He's pretty good with them.
Well, let me tell you something that I respect. Let me tell you something that I respect you so much about or for. Man, when I see the relationship you have with your son, oh my gosh. My father always supported me. Well, he supported me while being incarcerated. And my girlfriend always gets angry because she says, why are you always saying the truth? Well, I have to say the damn truth, just in case somebody else haven't heard it. But it doesn't matter. That's someone else's personal choice. He didn't want to be in jail, but he supported me with all the love that you had. But you get a chance to see that young man, and congratulations on him. Valuable talking. I mean, let's talk about your son a little bit, because it's kind of difficult today not to talk about you on the next level. And I want you to get cherry-eyed on me, man.
Don't worry, I won't.
Okay, because otherwise you're gonna make me cry, and we're gonna have a freaking cry fest here. Kind of mess up our reputation over here. But when I see that your son just graduated, what he graduated as?
He graduated. He was the prom king, even though they didn't have a prom. They all voted prom king. King. He was senior president of his class. He had so many awards. He was on Hamilton. He produced a rap with two of his friends. He produced it. He co-wrote it. He performed it before with the cast, before a sold-out audience, all the high schools. Because what happened was, all the high schools, many of the high schools, they get invited every year to these plays. And so all the 11th graders had to do a project. And so my son and two of his friends, they worked it together, and my son did all the music and the producing and so forth. And they submitted it, the principal and the committee, they were flipping over it. So they sent it to the producers of Hamilton. The Hamilton said, yo, we got to get them. And the principal was telling me all of this. And so that I couldn't go because I was too busy working. They didn't want to let the parents come. But man, I got it on tape. He really repped it with the school, he and his two friends. And now he's going on to University of Albany in business and economics. He's doing very well. He's a drummer at my church. He's the tech person at my church. I thank God, that I raised him in the church.
He's also a triple threat in tournament competition in multiple divisions.
Yeah. I didn't want to brag. I didn't want to say nothing.
No. Listen, again, I've been watching you, and I watch everybody. And there aren't that many people that are doing much to really recognize it. It's just about the same thing. When I see your son go from what would be technically, they call it hostile and soft style, I'm like, yo, that's really yin yang. That's really gold juice. That's the way it's supposed to be done, being fluid and at the same time linear when necessary. So yeah. I love that. I love the fact that all forms of those weapons, whether it's empty hand and or with something in your hand, he's representing that. Plus, for whatever it's worth, that really makes him what I would consider a true martial artist. That's why I always tell people, hey, I started in Kung Fu, because I know how to flow. It isn't just from electric boogie, but I even use the boogie and lock and breaking as how to control my body. And when you say that basically you're saying your son is a Renaissance man, and it's the way it's supposed to be. We're artists, and as artists, we're supposed to work on that right brain, do it. But at the same time, you just mentioned economics, that's the left side brain. So that's yin and yang. That's the universal balance that you must have in order for you to have the ability to prosper and make daddy proud.
Yeah, well, he did. You know, it's funny because I told him that I wanted him when he was a little boy. I let him watch the Bruce Lee, movies with me. I told him, "You're not
Wait,
gonna."
but not the part where the girl comes out, right? My favorite part is not
I
the right?
cover his eyes. I cover his eyes.
You gotta cover his eyes.
Don't watch this.
I can't believe I watched this movie when I was 6 or 7 years old. When I watched the mom the other night, my girlfriend will tell you, she was with my son this Saturday, or actually Friday, we were watching both those movies because they had them on. And I'm looking at that, and I see that scene where he's drunk, Fist of Fury, and I'm like, I remember that. But my mother didn't know that it was happening, so I got here a little late, for them to close my eyes. I was like, yeah, I'm not seeing it. Anyway.
Into the Dragon too. But it's funny, so he started getting interested. I told him that he'd have to wait until he's 7 because, God spoke to me and led me to this place here in Co-op City called Marshall Way Kung Fu. He said, he left me right there because I didn't even know this school existed. He just told me to go over there and I didn't even know he existed. So I went over there before he was 7. I spoke to Chris Robinson, Sabinum Robinson, and I told him, I said, so tell me about this place. Well, he said, yeah, we do Kung Fu. I said, oh, great, because I have a little Kung Fu background. And so,
guys, everybody in the 70s wanted to do Kung Fu because karate came from Kung Fu. So they used to say, if you want to learn the real stuff, you have to learn. I don't even know, some people call it Gung Fu.
Kung Fu, Wustu. And so I took him over there when he was 7. And he started learning, and I said, oh man, his first class, I was watching, oh man, he looked so awkward. He was having so much trouble and so forth. And he was just, kids used to tease him a little bit because he wasn't getting it. But then I just started bringing him more and more and more. And he was just conceptualizing moves and forms and everything.
But you're saying at age 7?
At age 7. I started
learning structure. Now, guys, for those of you who don't know, if you ever train in Kung Fu can be a little challenging, even with the horse stand. They don't sit there for half hour. Back in the days, it was just crazy. They put a yin-yang on the wall, and unlike other styles, Kung Fu literally makes your entire body into a weapon, including your toes. When you see people stomp the ground, they're really not stomping the ground. They're simulating having their heel go towards the toes and making the nails of the toes bend backwards. You can't walk too good without you mess the toes. And most people don't understand that. So to have a child learn those long forms, oh my God.
Yeah, he was learning them. He was learning the bow staff, the Korean bow staff, the broadsword. That was his favorite weapon. He started learning. And what happened was when I finished there with him, I would go down to Harlem Karate Institute with Dr. Hyman. And then I would be studying, I would be on the floor, and I used to have to take him with me and let him study, from school in the back of my car. And then he would have to finish while I'm on the floor, on the dojo floor, while we was all on the dojo floor. So he like quickly he would finish his homework because he wanted to see what we was doing. And then he would practice and mimic what we were doing on the side because Doc wouldn't let him on the floor. But then he was getting so interested in it. And then Doc just told me, Dr. Hyman said, well, just put him in the class. I said, well, he's always in Kung Fu. He said, that's all right, you get him in the class too, and then learn. Because he said he wanted to learn it. So he joined, with Dr. Hyman. So he was in 2 schools. He was in a Kung Fu school, and he was in a Japanese Goju school. And then he started learning all the forms and mastering the basics and everything over there. Dr. Hyman taught him a whole lot.
But it's interesting because when you mentioned even the school in the Bronx, well, unless I'm wrong, that school was teaching both Taekwondo or Korean style and Chinese style because he called them a Sabanim.
That's it.
So let's keep it real. That's 3 different versions.
Yeah. He had, Sabanim had a Taekwondo background. That's right, and Korean. It is called Sipauke, 18 weapons. That's a Korean, Northern style Kung Fu. That's a Korean. It was adapted from the Chinese.
Okay. So guys, just those of you who are listening, please understand this. The word karate, which really is 2 different symbols is karate, which means the China hand. Now that was changed when in Okinawa, Funakoshi Sensei went over to mainland Nippon, which is Japan, and Jigoro Kano, the founder of what would be judo, was the gentleman who come over. But it really comes from what's considered temple, which is Chinese, and it comes with religion, Zen Buddhism. So martial arts is both religious and political because the Japanese would not allow Okinawa to bring something over there and give and pay homage to the Chinese, which they conquered not once but twice. Very similar to what happened also with the Koreans. Koreans were only allowed to train in what was considered Korean karate that did Pinan forms, which are really Heian forms, which really come from Okinawa, but the Japanese took credit for it, hence the JK, Japanese Karate Association. Anyhow, the point is that when you're training, and to us, does it really matter to us? No, we for the freaking Boogie Down Block, we wanted to work here. But for whatever it's worth, we still should know our history and not the mysteries. Now, mind you guys, I am not an authority and any specific, but I know that I've asked enough people who've been there, done that. I think you know most of this anyway, but most people just don't. Isn't that sad?
Yeah, yeah. So Matthew, he loves his kung fu. I just gave him a list of Okinawan katas that I want him to. I said, you have about 4 or 5 weeks before you go to, because he's leaving in August to go to a school up in Albany at the university. He's gonna be living there. So 18 years with this guy.
What are you gonna do, bro?
He's gonna be gone.
Wait. What are you gonna do?
Man, I don't even know now.
Okay, we're gonna turn that page because
I'm gonna study more. I'm gonna try harder.
We don't want this to be a cry fest because the minute you say that, it reminds me that my daughter is going to school in Maryland this August and she can't even boil water, bro. So I'm like, how could she even go away? You know what I mean? And again, I'm getting a look like that. How dare you? No, this is the truth. We care about our children. We want better for them. And this world is so crazy. So our job is to prepare them to make the right decisions to get home safe. And I believe that wholeheartedly, that's what martial arts is really based on. Martial arts is based on values to help people make better decisions to get home safe for their loved ones from generations to come. I quite often tell people, all I want to do is do 2 things. And a lot of people agree that might be the case with them. I want to be a big boy, a good boy, make my elders proud, even those who aren't here. And I want to be a good role model, leading by example for my children, which includes having a healthy internal mind, I should say body, and also intellect. When my daughter asks me a question, she'll say, Dad, blah, blah, blah. I say, honey, I'm going to answer the question with what I believe to be the right thing presently. However, I may get additional data in the future where I might have to change my answer. And I want her to understand that it's just a matter of opinion based on my research or information that I presently have. So this girl, when she calls me, she says, Dad, you have a minute? I got a few questions. I'm like, our children is really us.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I better be prepared for me to come at me. Let's talk about that for a second.
That's right. They're a reflection of us, and we better get with that program and make sure we teach them and tell them right. Be that example, because when they leave that nest, they carrying your values and everything that you taught them with them wherever they're going. That's your DNA. Your DNA will pop up somewhere. It will pop up, and it can be an embarrassment for you, or it can bring glory and good name for your family. And I told my son, I said, listen, be honorable, bring honor to the family name, because that's what I've done. I will not, before I sell out, Doc used to tell us, before I sell out, I will get out. That's right. And I told him, you better fly right, remember the values, remember the spirituality, the prayers, and everything that I taught you, the word of God. And also remember honor. Remember, you know how to defend yourself. Don't go up there. He knows not to show off. I said, listen, this is not to show off. This is for you to learn for health, to defend yourself, defend your family, and to defend the weak and the poor. That was the original part of martial arts. Help defend the weak and the poor, to defend the village and so forth. Not just for you to go off and show off and throw tornado kicks and all that foolishness. He's not into that stuff because, you know, his teachers made sure, and I enforced that in them too. So take those values with you. And because you represent your family name and you represent your dojo, wherever you go, you're learning. And you got to represent it with distinction and honor. And so I'm just praying, you know, that he has those values intact and that he will continue the tradition of our family name.
Hey, brother, I have faith that you have nothing to worry about.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
The only thing you have to worry about is your eyes getting swollen. I know you're going to miss him a lot. But he's not too far.
No, but I'm more concerned with the females that's up there that's going to be chasing them.
Well,
that's
again,
what I'm
that's another subject matter, because obviously that's part of the DNA too. Because when I mentioned about the chicks or the girls, you was like, I had no problem with that. So I don't know if that's a tradition also. You know, maybe your father has some swag too, because we didn't speak about him. But listen, I want to say from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate you coming on here. We're going to officially set something up in the near future, because I think that we can have quite a bit of dialect here, because a lot of people just aren't diverse enough, I believe. And I know that you've been in the mix a little hands-on more than probably I have in recent years in New York City. However, I'm back in the Boogie Down Bronx, even though I'm in Florida right now. But the point still is that I'm proud of you. I think that you deserve not just an applaud, but a pat on the back and a hug and all that stuff, man, because how many fathers never had a chance to become a daddy? You know, and that's something that I think increases the possibilities of having our children make better decisions. Right. And somebody has to be the role model. That's why the group that I got, I call them gatekeepers, because someone has to be the gatekeeper of your mind, your heart, and your soul, because as parents, all we want is better for our children, but then we're just kids holding on to our toys of yesteryear, wanting to do better. So you're still a little kid, wanting to make the parents proud, and you just want to lead by example so that the next generation keeps it moving. So I think that we are definitely us one.
All right, us. I think I'm going to pass this on to him, you know.
Oh, man.
I think I'm going to pass it on. So he know the history of this.
Yeah, can you do me a favor and take a few photos of that and post them and tag me? Because what you just did there, to me, makes me wish that I had my original ones, because that's important. How many years and people and stages has that gone through? You know, the minute that we started talking about that, you went like a little kid, show me your toy under your bed. And I was like, man, I used to have one too. And that's what I mean about us just being children, wanting to be happy, man. Happy. There's nothing wrong with that. We live in a crazy world, but we don't have to be crazy. We don't have to be crazy. We have free will as a choice. Focus on what you want as opposed to what you don't want. And if you focus on what you want, you're going to attract that. And that's really what I believe to be the truth.
All right.
I appreciate you. God bless, and say hey. Say hey. Us one. When I say AB, if you can say see ya, I'll be very happy. AB.
See
ya. We out of here. Thank you very much. God bless.
Right. Peace be on to you. You're in my prayers, Jerry. You're in my prayers. You're always in my prayers. And everybody who I've friended on Facebook and who have friended me, I pray for them in the morning. I pray for them and their families. I do this all the time because I'm concerned about our families and the state that we're in right now. And I just love people. You know?
Like all of us doing our small part, a lot of things get done. If a lot of us do a little bit, a lot of things get done. There's a compound energy and effect of what would be positive energy. That's why I try to spread love. Again, can't sing, but you know.
I don't hate. Those are my friends, you know. Those are my friends.
You know what? So
I used to be in the music industry, big time.
So this is what I want you to do now publicly, if you don't mind. Would you promise to come back and let me interview you a little more specific? Because I know that there's a lot of intricacy inside of you. And I always hear your passion. I remember being at a tournament and having you bring your son over, and I was like, wow, this is so freaking cool, you know? And immediately when you mentioned that, I'm like, well, you know, I knew his instructor. Him and I spent a lot of years together, so maybe we could set up a more formal, what would be interview as soon as possible. So would you be willing to do that?
Absolutely. My life is an open book. My life is an open book. I have nothing to hide, nothing to dodge. My life is an open book. Because I refuse to have a bad name without truth. People say what they want to say, but there's always their truth and there is also the truth. And I'm committed to the truth and nothing else. So whatever. And I just see it and I hear it. Sometimes I just laugh at some of the stuff and some of the outright lies that people say on each other, because the martial arts world is very small and everybody know each other. And some of the things that goes on is just totally
unnecessary roughness.
Yeah. Unfortunately, thank God.
Sometimes when people have low self-esteem, they try to make themselves feel better by hurting others. So there's a lot of tissue issues. Anyway, I'm out of here before I start crying because I think it's dinner time.
Peace.
I don't want to get spanked. Oh man, I love that, man. Peace. We out of here. Thank you. I love it, man. Thank you. Peace.
All right.
One.